Yes. So this is it. We are finally together after all these months trying to catch up. I'm so glad to have you and that you accepted to be part of my podcast, Olympian's Diary. So how is it? How are you doing?
I'm doing very good. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. It's such an honor and a pleasure to have the opportunity to be on your podcast and to be here today. I'm doing very good. I'm currently in France for a little surprise for my mom. So it's always nice to be with family and to recharge a little bit. So I'm doing good.
So where are you staying currently in France?
I'm in Vitry, so it's a little bit south of Paris,
Right, okay.
in the Val de Marne. And usually I'm training in Florida, so I'm
Florida.
located.
All right.
Yeah.
So can you take us a little bit into your journey? Because what has brought you to the United States as a French skater? Maybe you could explain to us how did you get into that sport and why are you so passionate about it?
So I got into figure skating simply because I went to the rink with my school. I'm blessed to live in Vitry, where we have a rink, and one of our extracurricular activities was figure skating. I loved it. And since I was very young, I had a lot of energy. So my parents were like, you have to pick a sport to do so then you can spend all that energy. So then when you come back home, you just
Yeah.
go to sleep. And they let me choose, and I chose figure skating. I just loved it. And I feel like I didn't choose a sport, the sport chose me. And that's how I simply started figure skating. Fast forward to 2018, after skating 10 years in Vitry, then um, 5 to 6 years in Bercy, in the French training center. I wanted something more. I wanted to discover other ways of being trained. I wanted to reach the level of high performance, really, because I was close, but I wanted to get higher. And after very challenging years, between 2014 and 2018, I wanted some drastic change. And my best friend, who's Vanessa James, she's a pair figure skater. She went training in the US, in Florida, and they had tremendous results and tremendous improvements. They became European champion, third at Worlds, top five at the Olympics. I saw the progress in them, and I saw exactly what I wanted to achieve. And I decided, why not to go and see what they're all about, what they're doing on a daily basis, what made them that great skaters, and see if that works for me. And it turns out it was the greatest decision that I took because it allowed me to discover myself truly as a figure skater, as a woman, as a person, and also to understand what high performance truly means as an athlete.
Oh, that's quite a statement, right? I understand what high performance truly means when we know that figure skating in France is still, I mean, we're doing good, right?
Yeah.
We have amazing athletes who have made major shift also in the area in the times. Um, what do you think that is the difference? What is the French figure skating style or approach, and what is the American one? What do you think?
So I would say in France, unfortunately, we don't have the infrastructures to allow athletes to fully evolve in an environment of high performance. And
Mm.
we have to combine with whatever resources we have and make it work. So basically, it's like when I was training in Paris, what was really draining for me was that I was training in Bercy. So I was skating in Bercy. I had the medical at INSEP, but if you know, going to INSEP when you have no car, even when you have a car, it's a long drive because it's in the middle of nowhere. But especially when you have no car, the bus 112 took forever
I
to
know
come.
that one.
Yes. So the
The one
commute
one
is
two.
exactly the 112. If you know, you know.
Yeah.
It's very long. It comes every 20 to 30 minutes. So whenever we had to go do the recovery or the workouts or stuff like that, depending on the public transportations, was a hassle because the commute time between
Okay.
training and recovery was a
So
lot.
you were
And
spending a
then
lot of time in traveling
in traffic.
because you need
So
it.
if I was not in the transportations, then I was in traffic. So basically, I would leave the house at 7 a.m. and then I would come back at 9 p.m.
Mm.
And I feel like to do 5 kilometers, you spend 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and it's a lot of commute time. And we don't realize how much this is, this can impact your performances in a way, because
Yes.
driving, being like in stuck in traffic, and then running to go to warm up and go on the ice and stuff, and then do your, it's just a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And in the US, I was able to just build something that was more practical.
Mm-hmm.
And I was also able to have the luxury of building my schedule according to my needs. Because in France, a lot of rinks depends of the city or of private entities.
Yes.
Therefore, the time where we can skate are very limited, and you cannot build your own schedule. And I know it's a luxury, but at some point, I wanted to be able to manage my schedule
Mm-hmm.
in a way that would work better for my body as well.
Mm-hmm.
And in France, for example, you can have 2 hours in the morning. Not everywhere, but most of the places are like that. And then I know maybe one or two rinks where they have pretty much unlimited ice for that.
Oh,
So it's not that much, and they're not in Paris. Or if they are in Paris, they're very far away. But basically, you can have like 2 hours in the morning and then 2 hours in the afternoon, and
so
so you
yes,
have to
yes.
find around that.
For the
And
logistics, it's really obvious. And do you
yeah,
think that there are other reasons? I know some athletes, they also go to the United States because they want to find another approach to mentally as well,
yes.
physically, of course. But what would you say about that? It's not to compare, but how do you feel that you are evolving in that sense?
In the US, I would say the mentality is quite different, and living in the US also like shifts your mentality and your
Yes.
approach to high performance, because they're in a way like I will take the business aspect of things, because I really observe the business aspect of things
Mm-hmm.
outside of skating, but I got inspired by the business world. They will invest in you even if you're no one, and they will give you a chance to go and do it, because they can see the potential, or they can feel that you're motivated enough to go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas sometimes in France, if you're not really in the mold that they have for success,
Mm-hmm.
they might leave you on the side, because they might not have the resources, or they don't know how to make you blossom and grow in a way where you can potentially reach that level. And I feel that that's the main difference in mentality that I see between France and the US. Now, training in the US is definitely more expensive, because they work on a one-on-one basis. It's private lessons only, mainly.
Wow.
Whereas in Europe, what's nice and great is that we are in group settings, so we don't pay the same price. And in
Mm.
the US, you have to spend, because you have to pay for the
Wow.
ice, you have to pay for your coach, you have to pay for everything separately. So there are some goods and some bads in both, well, bads, less convenient in both situations. Um, I definitely take from both, because I was raised in both systems.
Yes.
I like the private approach, but at the same time, I sometimes I just need to be surrounded by people that have some drive. I don't need to be by myself with the coach.
Yeah.
We can be in the setting of five, six, seven. I don't mind, as long
Mhm.
as it's turning on the ice and we're doing the thing.
Yeah.
If it helps my wallet, I would be very happy.
Yes.
In the matter of fact.
But your sport is quite an individual sport, but now you're talking about a team dynamic. Um, how many people are working with you so that you can become a champion? Because you have already win quite a lot of medals, and that's so amazing. And of course, it's not only hard work. You later you will explain us a little bit what is so special about your figure skating. We will talk about,
Mhm.
but the whole team that you have, can you define us? Who are the people who are contributing to your health, to your physical health, to to your everything that is around your performance?
So I have a humongous village around me. Yes, it's an individual sport, but you cannot do it by yourself. That's impossible. So I do have uh 3 to 4 coaches that have specificities for on ice work. I have the technical coach, the choreographer, the movement detail coach.
Wow.
I'm still figuring out right now because I'm in a phase of evolving and constantly like adjusting what I need.
Mhm.
But I would need some one or more person who would work with me on that.
Wow.
Then off the ice, I would like to work also with like a dancer that does not classical, not ballet, because every time people are like, "Oh yeah, you need somebody who does ballet," I'm like, Not really."
So
Yes,
you're
you need
completely shifting with the traditional figure skating that we're used to see.
yes.
Um, is that on purpose? And is it allowed? Because it was not
I
really
mean,
the case. Or you take
they're not
ownership.
saying it's not forbidden. I'm just not working with the mold that they're used to because I'm clearly different. I am black. I am athletic. I am unique, and I feel trying to fit in the mold is killing your uniqueness and your authenticity.
Mhm.
So might as well just try to develop whatever you have that is you, because that's how people will remember you.
Yes.
If you stand out, if you're yourself, if you just showcase your character and who you are truly, because you will shine more. Even if you don't have any medals,
Okay,
people
let's
will.
be honest. Let's be honest. Are you telling that from experience, or you were first in the mold and then you realized that it didn't fit you? You were feeling sad. You were, did you were you always a disruptor? That's what I said. Because in our athletes' experience, we always tend to follow the mainstream, everything that is expected from us. And now I hear a woman who is really bold and dedicated to staying close to her truth. Was that always the case?
No, well, I was like I was a people pleaser, so I wanted to do good, I wanted to do well.
Mm.
And I recently realized that I built my armor, my persona around excellence. That was my weapon, because I used to hate my skin color. I used to hate the way I look for figure skating.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
and it's very
Okay.
interesting the dichotomy, because outside of skating, I kind of liked my body the way it looked, but whenever we were within the figure skating realm, because of the yeah, because of the mold, because of the way people see skaters, I felt like I was never enough thin, never enough like with beautiful lines and stuff like that. So I was pouring all my like work and effort into my trainings every day. If you ask me to do it 2 times, I would prove you that I can do it 4 times, because it was ingrained in me from a very young age that as a young black woman, you would have to work 4 times harder than anybody else. So I made sure that I worked hard to have the results. So at least I knew people would like me. It's kind of sad because I couldn't see my worth outside of my results, whether it is at school
Mhm,
or in life or in
mhm,
skating.
mhm,
I was living through my results. And that's how I grew up.
mhm,
And then when I didn't have the results anymore,
mhm.
my persona, my mask was like cracking up, because who was I without those results? That was the armor that allowed me to not confront my true feelings about how I felt really about myself, about the love that I didn't have for myself, about all of those things. I hid behind that.
Yeah.
And then the moment I didn't have those anymore, my world started to crumble. And I don't think anybody, even myself, realized how deep and how bad it was. And when I injured myself at the 2021 Worlds. I ruptured my Achilles tendon.
Ooh.
That's when
Wait,
I
wait, wait,
realized.
wait. Where
Mhm.
you had a Achilles break
Yes.
in the midst of a competition
Yeah, it was actually
while
the
you were doing a figure, and then
yes.
oh my
I
God.
was at the it was the World Figure Skating Championships.
Mhm,
I was doing the short program, and it was our Olympic qualifier for the 2022 Winter Olympics.
mhm.
And I went. I did the first jump perfect. Second jump, I did my toe pick, and then my tendon ruptured. And that was the first time in two Olympics that we didn't qualify the women for the event after over a decade of not having women in the sport. And I'm the only woman that went back to the Olympic for France since 2002. After
Wow.
2002, there was no other woman. And then eventually I qualified France against in 2014.
I like how you
And
say
then,
that. I really love how you say I qualify France to the
yes,
Olympics. That's very
because that was
interesting.
because the year before the Olympics we go to the Worlds for the qualifier, and I was the one who went. So I brought the spot for France. But it's not because you bring the spot for France that it means you're going to go to the Olympics. You just bring the spot for the country. And then the year of the Olympics, you still have to fight to have great result at the beginning of the season for the federation to then pick you to go to the Olympics. So
Mm,
I was the one who brought the spot for 2014. I was not the one who brought the spot for 2018, but I was the one who went for 2018. So for two Olympics, I was the one who represented France. And then 2022, unfortunately, I got injured, so I couldn't qualify. And after that injury, I had to sit down and truly understand who I was, because
yes.
I had all the time in the world to just sit down and, well, actually, no. I was doing my master's thesis. I had all the time in the world to do my thesis.
Yeah.
And that's when I truly dove into the dichotomy in the management of elite athlete, because the way I got injured, I should not have gotten injured. And
Oh, that's interesting.
really,
So,
yep,
yes. So then that this is why we're getting back to like your whole team of people, or
yes,
the talents that you have, the expertise that you have been looking for to surround you, to make
yes,
sure that you can, yeah, you can get into reach your goals.
yes, exactly. Because it was very important for me to finish writing my story on my own terms,
Mm. Hmm.
to own really who I am, and to stop hiding behind this armor that I built for myself,
Mm.
to embrace my vulnerability, because that's something I never did, because we're told to be strong at all time, at all cost.
Yeah.
And then I saw that despite being strong at all time, at all cost,
Mm.
um, I felt abandoned when I was the most vulnerable by the people I was trying to
Please.
make proud.
Yeah.
Like I tried to make them so proud,
Yeah.
and went through the pain for years. And then when I was the weakest, I was the loneliest. Thankfully, I had my parents, I
No
had my
one
best.
has they left you completely.
But basically, if I came back, it's thanks to my parents, their um, health coverage, because that was that bad. Because if they didn't have health coverage and I wasn't on their health coverage, I wouldn't have been able to go through the rehab that I went. And if I didn't do the rehab, then I wouldn't have been able to come back to skating.
Yes.
And then I also did not receive a specific paper from the federation that would have helped my situation so much. So it put me in a financial distress situation.
Yes.
So there was a lot of things that happened that were very tough.
Mm.
And I think that's the moment I truly entered adulthood. I truly understood what it meant. And that's also when I realized that, I needed to do something, I needed to change things.
Mm.
And I also understood that I could reach the circle of high performance, but being crazy is doing the same thing all the time and expecting a different outcome. So I knew I needed to change some things.
Mm.
So I started to fully understand my body, fully understand the pains that I had, the weaknesses, the strength, the things that I could work on, who I could work with, who would be fit specifically with me, my body, who would understand my body with the requirements that I had and the ambition that I had. It took a lot of time. It's very meticulous, but eventually it worked because I was able to come back after my Achilles tendon at one great level.
Amazing.
But
That's
and the
amazing.
thing
There's
is,
so many people they just can't make it after an Achilles, huh? It's so
yes,
tough. I had three times Achilles
wow,
operations, and I came back all the time. But yes,
yes,
just like you, I was not very aware of how to build that environment because the problem is not to be injured and to get back, right?
yeah. The problem is to be surrounded by the right people with the right resources to help you bounce back. And one of the problems that I see with, I think, with friends in general is that they view injury as you're no longer a good potential for medals or to
Mm.
bring anything to the country. Therefore, we're not going to bet on you anymore. And I'm like, you could not be further from the truth because, as a matter of fact, I see sometimes injuries as a blessing to work specifically on those things that we cannot take the time to work on a daily basis.
Yeah, that's true.
So now you have all the time in the world. So, all the weaknesses that I have, on top of everything that I need to work on for the injury, we
Yes.
can work on, we can improve, we can do some mental work, we can
Okay,
do
so
some
tell it again.
visualization.
So who are these? What is your circle of success?
So I have coaches on ice, coaches off ice that are doing choreography and stuff like that. I have a breath and cold and body functionality coach. I have
What
a
does
neuro.
it mean? What does
Okay,
it
so the body functionality coach, basically she helps me with breathing because breathing is the essence of what we do every day. Basically, we get the breath of life every day from God,
mean?
and that's something we took from granted, but that's not something we work on. And so she's helping me regulating my stress whenever I'm stressed. She's helping me be more mindful of how I breathe and how I use the breathing. She's also helping me improve my capacity for breathing. So then when I'm on the ice, when I perform, I'm able to naturally bring more airflow, oxygen to my muscles to regulate my rhythm, my heart rate
Yes,
whenever I'm skating, so I can
yes,
be more performant and more present on
yes,
the ice from beginning to
yes.
end.
Mhm. Yeah, we don't
Also,
realize everything that is going on in around the skating choreography and the time. How do you count and when do you relax? When do you have to get the right tension? Because yeah, if you don't get the right tension, you can injure yourself. You have to
exactly.
you have to carry the weight of your body to jump in the air and don't lose balance and still keep a rhythm. That is 3 minutes, right? It's a choreography.
No, it's 2 minute 50 for the short program, and then it's 4 minutes and 10 seconds for the free skate. So
Yes,
it's very intense.
very
And
intense.
like ballerinas, we have to do those jumps and those spins and those step sequence while making a choreography look very effortless, as if nothing happened and it was so easy. When inside we're dying, but we cannot
Hard
showcase
work.
that.
Yeah.
So she's helping me with all of that. She's also helping me through breathing. She's helping me regulate my heart rate and my breathing,
Mm,
to do some cold plunges and do some contrast therapy that we all do as athletes.
mm,
So we do hot and cold bath. So she does that
mhm,
as well.
mhm.
The neuro performance coach, she works, the work that she does is amazing. Basically, whatever challenge you face with your body, she will connect it with like a part of your brain and give you some exercises that you can do that will activate specific parts of your brain in order to help alleviate the hurdle that you might have in your body
Wow.
and make sure that your brain is connected with your body
Oh.
and they're working all together.
Okay, give
And the
an
reason,
example. For example, when you had your Achilles, maybe, and you connect
actually,
back with your
it
body.
happened. It happened after.
Mm,
Like last year, I realized that when I was doing my rehab for another injury, unfortunately, when I was going down the stairs, I had like a mishap in my brain, and I almost felt like I was about to miss a step and fall, and it
mm,
was happening all the time. And that's why I want to be an advocate for athletes to be mindful of their bodies, because your body speaks to you much more than you think. When you pay attention, that's when you can be fast to catch that there is something wrong. And
Mm.
I was like, that is odd. Like, when we do the exercises in the stairs, I was able to do that super fast.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, there was always that twitch that glitched in my brain.
Mm.
So I saw her on Instagram, and then I reached out to her and I explained my situation. And when I came back on the ice, I realized that that twitch was the sort of the twisties that Simone Biles had at the Olympics.
Mm.
So basically, my awareness in the air was completely off,
Mm.
completely off. So whenever I was doing doubles, I was fine. But the moment I wanted to do triples, so it required more rotation, I
Mm.
was lost in the air, which never happened to me before. I've been skating for 25 years. Never happened to me. But for some reasons, my body was in a state of fight or flight,
Mm.
and it was just protecting me from whatever trauma I put my body into it.
Mm.
Whenever I was trying to do triples, my body was trying to protect me. So she made me do some exercises. So we worked a lot off the ice. And I told her exactly how I felt. And she was like, okay, you just have to do that specific exercise. I did it. I tried to do the jump off the ice. And then I was able to find the feeling again, like it was before, of
Mm.
my body knew what to do.
So interesting. Yeah,
Yes.
because in
And
old school figure skating, we say, come on, just
just go
train
do it.
hard. Why you want to do so many things? You just don't do it. If you do it right, it's okay. If you don't do it right, then that's your fault.
Exactly. They would say, "Oh, come on, you're just you're just in your head right now." And I'm like, "Yeah,
Mm.
I'm in my, but my body's trying to tell me something."
Yes.
So
Okay.
it was very interesting for me to go through something like that, because then when I observe other skaters, I can tell when maybe they're lacking confidence, or if there is something more like here. It's very
Yeah.
interesting.
It's so interesting. You have a very interesting approach, and it sounds like it's like a business management mastery class that we have here. And
Yeah.
all these people who are involved in your performance. So you talked about the neuro
Perfect.
coach,
Yes.
and how about your nutritional health? Do you?
I did work with some experts. Yep, I did work with some experts in that matter. Right now, I do not have one specific person I'm working with, because I'm also figuring that out. And one thing on my journey that I realized is that sometimes, based off of our own experience, we want to use our experience to give advice to people.
Yeah.
And one thing that I realized is that not we all have different paths. And as much as I want to help people, and it was a great lesson, and an eye opener for me, because I was like, next time if I'm a coach one day, I will
Yes.
make sure to understand where people are coming from before giving them any type of advice. And even if I can provide some advice, I will just guide them, and I will make sure that they're surrounded by the proper experts to truly take them where they need to go.
That's
Because
so true.
my experience might not be your experience. And
Mm.
even if it worked for me, it might not work for you. And that's one thing I want to make sure I convey on my social media, because I wanted to share my progress. I wanted to start that series called Countdown to Milano Cortina and share how I
Ah.
get ready to feel my high performance body. So I started by presenting where I was starting from at that point, how much I weigh, which was huge for me to say, because in figure skating, I didn't want to say it because I'm one of the heaviest, but what my body looked like and everything. And then I had that realization that a lot of young, impressionable kids are following me.
Mm.
They might not know themselves, and they might see something that I do, and they be like, oh, if it worked for her, it's going to work for me. I'm like, we don't have the same genetics. We're not coming from the same place. I don't know where you're at mentally. And the mental plays a big aspect in how you feel, how you look, how your body can react also. It's not just the nutrition, it's not just the workouts that you're going to do. It's also here in the head. So I want to make sure that people understand where I'm coming from before I share with them
Okay.
everything that I'm putting
How
into
far
place
do
right
you
now.
go? How far do you go with that? Where are you coming from?
I have to go back very far. And that's where I was battling because I'm like, I'm living so many things right now, but it would not make sense for people to understand the depth of everything that I'm going through and everything that I put into place right now if they do not understand where I'm coming from. And it doesn't stem from yesterday or 2 months ago, it stemmed from years and years ago. And there is a lot of things that I had to unlearn from all the patterns and the things that I built in order to become the person that I am today and to do the things that I do today.
Can you share an example?
One example would be the way I train now. I don't train as much on the ice as I used to. When I was young, I used to train like 4 hours a day because it's put in our head that you have to train a lot of hours to reach the highest level of performance, which to an extent is true. You do need to have the repetitions and everything. But then, as first off, as you get older, your body changes. It's different. It cannot hold the same amount of training every day and impact and jumping and pounding on the ice.
Mm.
So as I grew up, I understood that. But then when you're surrounded by people who have that old mentality, they want you to go and more and train 6 times a week and 5 hours per day. I'm like, I don't need that. I want to train smarter, not harder.
Mm.
I did my reps when I was younger. I gave that. We're good. But now I train 2 to 3 sessions per day. Like the first session might be like an hour and 20 minutes, the second one 45 minutes, and the third one 45 minutes. It doesn't look much, but during that time can
Mm.
be very intense and very intentional.
Focused work.
But that I learned over time. And I was like, I actually don't need to overwork myself like crazy and look exhausted to feel like I actually did the work.
I
I
can
can
feel.
actually, yeah. So it's little things like that. Or what is another thing?
But on your nutritional, the nutritional aspect of your performance, so you
Yes.
said that you went very far.
Yes.
Because we are French, you and I. But did you
Yes.
consider that approach as well? Then maybe there is something else to look at.
I tried different ways of nourishing my body at some point because I when I moved to the US, because we're French, we have good quality food here in Europe and in France. But
Mm.
then when I moved to the US, it's not the same quality, it's not the same regulations, and my body felt it. So at some point I went the vegan route. Like I wasn't really vegan, I was flexitarian. So I was most of the time not eating any meats there because they are loaded with hormones and stuff like that.
Mm.
And then my cheat meals were fish or meat, but I was mainly not eating meat.
Mm.
And I felt the difference on my body, and I also feel like it might have made me weaker. I cannot say it for a fact because I don't have the medical exams to prove it, to back it up.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. But I feel like my bones were not as strong as they used to, all of these things. So now I'm back to a diet where I'm eating meat because I need my protein intake. I need my body to feel good, and I feel great. I just need to spend a little bit more so then I make sure it's like high quality meat, like as organic as possible, even if you never know, but at least try to do the best.
Yes.
Um but I went through different phases, and then also I became addicted to sugar when I was in the US. So that's another thing I have to work on very, very hard because they put sugar in everything. Like things you
Mm.
don't need sugar in soups. They put sugar in soups. Who why? So
Mm.
that's a one thing I had to work on. My appetence for sugar. So yeah, it evolves with time and adjustments
Must
and
be,
understand.
do you feel like it must be sometimes a lonely journey? Because I mean, your nutrition has a direct impact with your performance.
Yeah.
Did you develop some kind of anorexia or
Oh
bulimia?
yeah. In figure skating, I don't think I know any skater, specifically women, who hasn't gone through at least one eating disorder. I tried them all because at some point they were telling me I wasn't lean or light enough. So that's one thing. After
Oh,
2014, they told me that I wasn't light enough because I started to have some inflammation in my knees, and they're like, "Oh, it's because you're too heavy." No, the reason was the season we just had was freaking intense, and I needed more time off for my body to recover after one of the biggest season of my life, where we had the qualifier for the Olympics, we had the Grand Prix, we had the national championship in December,
Yes, of
Europeans in
course.
January.
Mm.
Yeah,
Busy.
you
Yeah,
Olympics
yes.
in February, the whole month of February, I was at the Olympics because we had the team events at the very beginning and then the ladies were at the very end. So I spent the full
Yes.
month at the Olympics. And then in March we had Worlds. Of course my body was exhausted. It was a high intensity event.
Mm.
And after that I started to have knee pains and they put it on my weight.
Mm.
So the I was afraid to go do the rehab because in the rehab they would make me do some weight and I would gain weight. And you see where we are, like, okay, so I became obsessed with not eating too much. So you change your habits. You don't eat all your meals. You start feeding yourself off of sugar only because sugar will keep you going, and you snack here and there and you don't have full meals. And
Mm.
they used to tell me when I was younger, you cannot eat carbs, you cannot eat sugar, you cannot eat chocolate. You can't. It's always that. You can't. They were always looking in our plates. Like I remember we went to the French tour and then people were spying on me and then they snitched to my coach that I was eating some fries at the French tour. I'm like, and so what?
Mm.
So what? So I was always scrutinized all the time. So it made it even worse because then at some point I tried to stop eating, didn't work, didn't have the energy, and I didn't lose weight anyways.
You didn't lose.
So then I did the laxatives. So whenever I was eating too much, I was just taking laxatives because that was helping.
My goodness.
Um, then there was the phase where I just could not control, so I was just binge eating.
Yeah. Mhm.
That's it. I
Yeah.
tried maybe once to make myself throw up. Nah, I was like, that's not for me.
Oh,
I tried them all. Tried them all. I was over exercising also. So if I know I was eating a lot, I was doing a lot of exercise to compensate at the gym. I went and ran a lot, did a lot of sauna, did a lot
my
of
God.
stuff like that. Sure that I was
And
sweating it
all of
out.
that for 2, 3 minutes of glory, right?
Yeah. And then for what? Because really, once you have the medal, then you're like, so what? Now I did it. And
Okay.
because when you're in that mindset, you don't enjoy the process.
Yes.
So you're really aiming for the title,
For
for
the
the
title.
medal.
I know.
And
I
then
know.
when you have it, you're like, okay, now what?
But what do you think that separates those who make it, like constantly, or who are really at the top of the game, and the others, even though we know now, and luckily they started talking that they are not feeling good, that they are not
Yeah.
feeling well. Actually,
Yeah.
they start talking, they start sharing the truth, you win it, but
Mhm.
then inside it's just a massive mess and brokenness. But
Exactly.
still, let's learn. I'm curious to know what you think about it, because now you're running for the next Olympics, right?
Yes. Yeah,
And
exactly.
you are now, like, you seems to have a lot experience, and this is also very tricky because we know it's make it or not, or fake it until you make it, or whatever is what
Yeah.
we're used to hear. What is your mindset now,
Mhm.
that you have built up that team and that you are going for this Olympics? How do you advocate for yourself on that sense?
I'm just authentically myself, which is hard because that means being vulnerable and you feel naked in the middle of the street, basically, sharing the hardest days, sharing the truth of my preparation to the Olympics. That's ultimately my goal, is to share the whole process as I'm going through it, which is definitely difficult because you're giving weapons to the opponents, you're sharing your vulnerabilities and your weaknesses. But at the same time, I'm doing that for as a testimonial for the younger generation, for them to understand that it's not just like titles, winning, travels, and glory, but it's a hard work. It can be a very lonely road, and it's challenging and difficult. It's not easy. We make it look easy, and we just show you the best because that's what we're wired to as elite athletes. Like, we're not going to show ourselves at the lowest. No, we're supposed to be the elite. We're supposed to sell you the dream to make you want to go into the sport. But I feel there is something very powerful and special in showing the hardest parts where we're not perfect, because then they can relate.
Mm.
And then it doesn't look as unattainable as they think, because in the end, we're all human beings first. Yes, we're athletes. We are wired in a way where we set our mind to something, and then we go for it and we work like crazy people to reach that goal. You have to be crazy to be an elite athlete, let's be honest, because we're
How do
running
you
after.
combine both then? How do you physically, mentally, emotionally can go
Mhm.
every day after your dream, knowing
Mhm.
that you have changed your approach to peak performance? You see what I mean? You
Yeah.
know, like in and this is a very tricky question for many elite athletes, even the best of
Yeah.
the greatest, you know. How did you feel? How do you feel about that?
I felt
Because
great
I'm
because
sure
I'm
you have
aligned.
ambition. You have
Yeah.
ambition.
Mhm. I do have ambition. However, skating does not define me anymore. The titles that I could get in skating don't define me anymore. I am enjoying the process. And because I'm enjoying the process, it makes it a little bit more easier to also share said process with the people. And I feel more aligned because I know me more. I know who I am, what I want, um, and what I can do. And I've gained some trust and confidence in myself that I didn't have before.
Mm.
And I'm not afraid to be. No, I'm gonna take that back. I'm afraid to be vulnerable because it's definitely a new experience to
Yes,
showcase.
it's so much duality between
Yeah.
the hero persona, let's say, that
Mhm.
athletes show,
Yes.
and the other side, the deep, dark, let's say,
Yes.
lonely journey. Um,
Hmm.
did you have like a moment that was so painful that maybe made you realize, fuck it, you know, I'm gonna stop this, and maybe
Yeah.
could you maybe share about that, and if that, of course, not only injuries, but yeah, your relationship to your to personal branding or how you advocate for
Hmm.
yourself. And
So the hardest part, which took me a lot of time to figure out, is how I would show up for myself online, because the people knew the public figure May, but they didn't know me truly. And I want people to know me. Like, if you're following me, if you're a part of my community, I want you to know all aspects of me.
yeah, you have a
And
lot
May
of
is not just.
followers. It's amazing.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. I do, but I have lost a lot actually, but I don't mind,
Oh, really?
because yeah, at some point I was close to 139,000, and then I've lost a lot because I didn't post regularly because I was figuring out my brand, the
Mhm.
renewal, the rebranding, and then also what type of content I wanted to put out there,
I
because
love that.
people know.
Yeah.
Go, 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 go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm part of that generation who didn't know how to handle that. Even though
Yeah.
I had all this dream of becoming a journalist and you know, being live and stuff like that. But I was so impressed by the pressure of what people were going to think about me.
Think.
And if I
Yeah.
don't succeed, I'm a loser. I was even once told I was a tourist because I show up online, you know. So
Yes.
in France, it's very, let's say, critical that.
Yes.
So now, how do you feel about that? Because, and what do you want to, why do you want to share more of yourself? What's your, yeah, what's your goal at the end?
My goal is to have an impact in the sporting world.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel we are very blessed to have social media to be able to make that impact
Oh,
at no cost. We all have a phone, we all have social media.
yes.
So this is a great way to have a platform to advocate for
Mm-hmm.
causes that are dear to your heart,
Mm-hmm.
and also to create opportunities to monetize that brand image, because as athletes, we don't see the value that we bring to the world. We
Mm-hmm.
do not know how to monetize ourselves. And the one thing that the US ingrained in me is
Yeah.
that I am worth it, and I
Yeah.
have a story that is worth being shared.
Mm.
Therefore,
And
it
monetize.
is exactly.
Yes.
shared and monetized. That's very important, because how are we supposed to live? We're not paid to be athletes. Um, so understanding that and shifting that perspective allowed me to shift and build my brand. And that's also what I studied. So I'm very passionate about like
Very
branding, marketing,
good.
storytelling, copywriting. I love that. I could do that for days, like truly. And I dove deep into like as athletes, we're a brand,
Yes.
whether we like it or not. And that's
Mhm.
exactly what I said in my thesis. Like I studied the structure of a business, and I'm like, okay, so the CEO has the vision,
Mhm.
and then he surround himself with the people that have the resources that will help him get to the vision, and those people will act every day to make that mission a reality,
Yes.
their daily occurrence. And
Yes.
then they have something that like a flame inside that is burning, that was the
Mhm.
core of why they started that business.
Mhm.
And when you have your MVPs, your mission, your values, having core values is very important, because then that will allow you to align yourself with people who
Yes.
share the same vision, the same values, the same morals as you.
Mhm.
And brand association is very important. So to have that, you have to have values. When you
Yes.
have your MVP, after it's very easy to navigate, because you have your compass that is fully ready to go and move on. So as an athlete, that's exactly what I did. I set up my mission, values,
Wow.
purpose, passion, and now it's helping me navigate. So if I want to work with some brands, I make sure that we align in the values that we want to
Yes.
share,
Yes.
the things that I represent. I want it to be brands that I use, or that I want to use, that I want to try, that are ethical, that have a past that I'm fine with, like little things like that that make sense for me. Might not make sense for anybody else, but for me it makes sense. So then the people that are following me, I don't want to sell them things just to sell them things and monetize my brand. I want it to make sense for them, because I'm also conscious that not everybody has tens of thousands of euros or dollars to spend every day. We are already in a world of over consumerism. So if I can help them consume with intention, intentionality is my thing. If they can consume with the intention, I'm happy. And don't feel forced to buy anything that I promote.
Mhm.
It's just products that I personally love, that I personally use, that I know have been helpful for me, and I'm sharing it, and I have the opportunity to actually monetize and share about it. If you like it, please feel free to use it and give me your honest opinion. If you don't, please scroll away. I don't want you to be feel forced.
Mhm.
um and I feel that's very powerful to be able to build a brand like that, and to also
Amazing.
showcase more of yourself.
Yes. So that's so impressive. How many months, days, weeks until the Olympics?
February 2026 is going to be the Olympics. So we have 11 months. Well, less than 11 months now, because we're at the end of March. Closer to 10 months until the Olympics. It's nothing.
Yeah.
And
You are
my
like
challenge
your physical preparation is getting closer, right?
now, oh, the preparation has started like a year ago already.
Yes, yes, yes. That's
Um,
good. Yeah.
but I need to, my challenge is going to be big, because I didn't compete for the pre-Olympic season, because I'm looking for sponsors for that reason,
Mm.
for them to invest in my preparation and help me, because I have the people around me, but right now some people are able to help me, some others I need to be able to fund them
Yes,
in order for them to help me.
yes.
So I have identified the people,
Mm.
and I'm not working with all of them right now. The next step will be to secure some sponsorships
Yes,
to help me fund that comeback journey.
yes.
People who would love to be a part of it, to become the family that I evolve and grow with
Mm.
for that comeback. And hopefully I'll get to compete for the reminder of the 2024-2025 season,
Mm.
which is going to end very soon for figure skating,
Mm.
and do some summer preparation competition, so then I can get out there and stay on the radar of the federation.
Okay, how much money do you need?
Figure skating is very expensive. I need close to $200,000 for that comeback, because that would include everything from the travels to competition, covering my travels and my coach's travel,
Yeah.
to their coach's fee, to the physical trainer, to the recovery, which is going to be the main key point for me. The recovery is very important. It's going to take a big part of that.
Yeah.
Um, and then just the basic expenses, like where I'm going to live, make sure that all my basic expenses are covered.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that would be the amount that I need. Now I don't need that from one person, obviously, because that's a lot of money. But I have built a file where I explain a little bit more in detail what I need, and what I can also give to the
Yes,
businesses. They can
of course.
gain they can gain tax
Yes.
deduction,
Yes.
because of course they have to have incentives. They're not just going to give their money away and be like, okay,
Yes.
well, have
Yeah, but
I
you
want us to
you you explain clearly your understanding of the organization of a team and a
yeah,
company, from the CEO to all the
yeah,
stakeholders, and where everyone can perform at their best. And this is just an incredible offer, let's say, a
yes,
product that you can really monetize so well. So yes, that's so interesting. I'm really curious and inspired by everything you have said. You are really great, and I wish you
thank
a
you,
lot of success. Um,
thank you so
Knowing that it's another dynamic that you are into, and that journey, it must be even more exciting. So
it is.
I really, I'm so impressed. Really, huge
Thank you.
congratulations for that.
Thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. And hopefully it will pay off. But no matter what, this is experience that I can take for other generations, because I've been through that. I know what it felt like also. It's not easy, especially because I'm living in the US. I don't have a work visa. If I could work there, my life would be very easy and simple. But right now, I don't have a work visa. I have a visitor's visa. So that's what makes it very tricky.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be creative. You have to find ways. You have to think fast. It's draining also to have to be an athlete, to have to be an entrepreneur,
And CEO,
to have to be
you are
everything at once.
performing. You are the
Exactly.
CEO and the performer all at the same
Exactly.
time,
So it's a
and
challenge,
it's a
but definitely
challenge. Yeah.
rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.